The Senate corridors in Coruscant remained silent during the night, illuminated only by emergency lights that created elongated shadows on the marble walls. Padme Amidala walked discreetly through the empty corridors, her steps muffled by the red carpet covering the floor. She held a datapad against her chest, her heart beating fast as she approached Bail Organa's private office. The senator from Naboo was certain she wasn't being followed, but still looked back every few seconds, checking each shadow and each corner of the endless corridors. When she finally reached the door, she entered the access code that Bail had provided her earlier that day. The door slid silently, revealing the dimly lit interior of the office where the senator from Alderaan awaited her with a grave and worried expression. Bail Organa stood near the large window overlooking the urban vastness of Coruscant, his hands crossed behind his back as he observed the nighttime air traffic. He turned when he heard Padme enter, his face showing the concern that had become his standard expression in the last months of war. The senator from Alderaan had visibly aged since the beginning of the conflict, deep lines marking his forehead and evident dark circles under his eyes. He gestured for Padme to sit in one of the leather chairs in front of his desk adorned with symbols of Alderaan. When she settled in, Bail activated an interference device that would ensure no conversation could be monitored by spies or surveillance equipment. The small device emitted an almost inaudible hum, creating a bubble of privacy around them while the tension in the air became almost physical and suffocating. "Padme, thank you for coming so late on this dangerous night," said Bail, his voice low but firm and determined, charged with urgency. "I know that what I'm about to suggest may sound like treason against the Republic we swore to serve, but I need you to understand my growing concern about the direction we're taking. Chancellor Palpatine has accumulated more absolute power than any leader in the history of the Democratic Republic we know. He controls the Senate through political manipulation, commands the clone armies without real oversight, and now even the Jedi seem to be increasingly under his direct and indirect political influence. Each emergency, each crisis of this endless war that has already lasted 3 years, has been an opportunity far too convenient for him to expand his unprecedented authority without serious questioning from any institution. When you look back at the last 3 years of bloody conflict that has killed billions, can't you see an extremely disturbing and suspicious pattern?" Padme leaned forward, her intense gaze fixed on Bail with total concentration and absolute seriousness. "I have been thinking exactly the same thing for months, Bail, and it has been eating away at me from the inside daily. Something deeply troubles me about how this war unfolds so conveniently for Palpatine's political interests. Military victories always come at the exact moment to justify more emergency powers being granted to the Chancellor by the Senate. The Separatists always seem to be one step behind in battles, but never completely or definitively defeated, keeping the threat alive and constant. It's as if someone extremely powerful were carefully orchestrating both sides of this devastating war for some greater and sinister purpose that we haven't yet fully understood. Anakin told me about some things that left me very uneasy about Palpatine's increasingly strange behavior. The Chancellor summons him frequently for private conversations that last hours and are completely confidential, far from any oversight by the Jedi Council." Bail nodded gravely, his face showing visible relief at finally sharing his deep concerns with someone absolutely trustworthy. "I began to discreetly investigate the complex financial transactions linked directly or indirectly to the Chancellor's office using extremely loyal banking contacts I've trusted for decades. What I discovered was an incredibly complex and sophisticated network of ghost characters and secret accounts operating in multiple jurisdictions. Some of these obscure accounts had direct and undeniable connections with known separatist leaders and their war financing systems, while others generously financed massive Republic military contracts through completely hidden subsidiaries that are difficult to trace. It's impossible to prove definitively and legally that Palpatine is personally behind this elaborate financial network, but the patterns are too clear to be coincidence. Someone in a very high position of power is benefiting enormously and profitably from the prolongation of this bloody conflict that kills millions daily." Padme shared her own disturbing and alarming discoveries, carefully projecting a detailed hologram showing a meticulously constructed timeline of events. "Look carefully at this, Bail, because the patterns are undeniable when you see them clearly organized. Every major devastating separatist attack was precisely preceded by some serious debate in the Senate about limiting or removing Palpatine's powers. The massive and coordinated attack on Coruscant happened exactly 2 days after a brave group of senators proposed a complete review of emergency executive powers. The brutal and bloody invasion occurred precisely when the Oversight Committee was about to initiate a deep investigation into extremely suspicious military contracts. The coincidences are too numerous and temporally too precise to be simply ignored as chance, bad luck, or normal military planning. It's as if the separatists had direct and real-time access to the most secret and confidential Senate discussions, information that should be completely protected and inaccessible to the external enemy. Padme made an extremely risky but absolutely necessary decision after weeks of careful investigation and meticulous collection of compromising evidence. Bail, we need to involve Anakin in this in some calculated and strategic way that doesn't completely expose our investigation, she said during another secret meeting in a secure location. He is too close to Palpatine for us to simply ignore this potentially valuable connection for our ongoing investigation. If I can carefully plant some very specific seeds of doubt in his naturally questioning mind, perhaps he'll start to observe and question important things he's ignored for years. Anakin is incredibly perceptive, intelligent, and has excellent instincts when he's not emotionally compromised or being actively manipulated by others. I need to gently remind him of fundamental democratic values and the sacred principles we're supposedly fighting for in this bloody war. But I need to do this in an extremely subtle, natural, and gradual way so as not to raise Palpatine's immediate suspicions about our investigation. When Padme finally had the perfect opportunity to speak with Anakin in complete and absolute privacy, she chose each word extremely carefully. Ani, don't you find it genuinely strange and disturbing how this devastating war continues indefinitely without any real end in sight on the horizon? Every time it seems we're really close to a decisive and final military victory, something extremely convenient happens, prolonging the conflict dramatically for more months or years. I sincerely and deeply worry about what the Republic is rapidly becoming under this perpetual and endless state of emergency. We have sacrificed so many fundamental civil liberties, so many basic rights, in the name of temporary security repeatedly promised by Palpatine. When exactly is this really going to finally end? Ani? Anakin seemed visibly uncomfortable and defensive with the direct question and its worrying implications. The Chancellor is doing absolutely the best possible in this impossible situation, Padme. This war is infinitely more complicated than you imagine. But Padme persisted patiently and gently, using her deep emotional connection with him to truly reach him beyond his defenses. Ani, I trust your judgment and your sharp perception more than you imagine. I've always trusted you completely. But I need you to do something very important for me, please. Something that can save the Republic. Just carefully observe the things around you with truly open and critical eyes. Carefully observe how Palpatine speaks specifically about the Republic's future after the war eventually ends someday. Observe how he reacts defensively when someone brave suggests returning his extraordinary emergency powers to the democratically elected Senate. Observe the patterns in political and military events that always benefit him politically in some convenient way. You don't need to distrust him immediately or accuse him of anything yet. Just keep your eyes truly open and your questioning mind active in the coming weeks. For me, Ani, please just pay real attention. In the intense and revealing weeks that followed, Anakin began to observe Palpatine with new, much more critical and analytical eyes, as Padme had carefully asked. During one of their frequent private conversations in the luxurious office, the Chancellor made particularly strange and disturbing comments about the Jedi. They have so much extraordinary power through the Force, Anakin, immense power that isn't verified or controlled by absolutely any real or democratic civil authority. Don't you find that fundamentally problematic and dangerous for a functional and healthy democracy? Anakin felt something genuinely disturbing in these manipulative words for the first time. He began to notice patterns of how Palpatine frequently asked extremely investigative and detailed questions about specific Jedi capabilities and secret techniques, about ancient and powerful Force techniques that few knew or mastered, about specific weaknesses of the Council and internal divisions among the most influential masters. Why exactly would a common political chancellor need such detailed and technical information about the internal aspects of the Jedi Order? Anakin also noticed several other extremely strange and suspicious behaviors that he had previously completely ignored out of blind loyalty to his longtime mentor. Palpatine frequently seemed to know details about secret Jedi military operations even before they were officially reported to the Senate through appropriate channels. He made surprisingly informed and detailed comments about the dark side of the Force that seemed to go far beyond simple basic historical knowledge. There were specific moments when Anakin felt something distinctly dark and malignant around him, a disturbing and shadowy presence in the Force. When Palpatine spoke vaguely about eventually ending the war, there was always a deliberate and evasive vagueness about returning his extraordinary powers. When the Separatist threat is completely and definitively eliminated in all forms, then we will carefully consider the appropriate transition, he would say evasively. But the military threat never seemed to be truly close to complete elimination, new dangers always conveniently arising that justified continued powers. Anakin cautiously shared his growing and extremely worrying observations with Padme during another private and highly confidential meeting in her secure apartment. You may be completely right that something is very, very wrong here, Padme, and this realization scares me deeply to the core. There are specific things the Chancellor says regularly, particular ways he sometimes talks about the Jedi, that make me feel extremely uncomfortable now that I'm paying real attention. He asks about technical and secret things that seem completely inappropriate for a common civil political leader to ask or know. And there are distinct moments when I feel something genuinely dark and malignant around him, something I simply cannot adequately explain with simple words, as if there were a shadowy and threatening presence in the Force that he's actively trying to hide from me and everyone. Padme, I honestly think you and Bail need to take absolutely all of this to the Jedi immediately without further delay. They urgently need to know about my direct observations and about all the compromising evidence you've secretly collected during risky months. In the sacred and ancient Jedi Temple, Master Yoda had been meditating extremely deeply about the growing and intensified disturbances in the Force that constantly troubled him. The mysterious shadows were becoming progressively thicker and impenetrable, obscuring his normally clear vision of the future in ways he had never experienced in his long and wise centuries of life. He urgently and without delay summoned an absolutely complete meeting of the Jedi Council to discuss his increasingly dark and threatening premonitions. When all the most experienced masters were finally gathered in the historic circular chamber, Yoda spoke with extreme and unusual gravity that worried everyone. Serious and growing disturbances in the Force clearly feel I can now, more than ever before, close a great mortal danger is closer than any of us ever imagined possible. Blind, completely we have been, to a threat growing right under our arrogant noses for many years. Investigate more deeply and carefully, we must do without absolutely any additional delay. Especially those in positions of great political power and influence, examine extremely carefully we need to do now. Before the serious discussion could naturally proceed among the masters, Anakin urgently requested formal permission to speak directly to the complete council about a matter of extreme galactic importance. He respectfully entered the sacred chamber accompanied by Padme and Bail, an extremely unusual and unprecedented combination that immediately alerted all the experienced masters that something extraordinary was happening. Padme methodically and carefully presented all the detailed evidence that she and Bail had riskily collected over dangerous months of secret investigation. The extremely suspicious financial records mysteriously connecting both opposing sides of the devastating war. The suspiciously perfect temporal patterns of the most devastating separatist attacks. The historical files completely and mysteriously erased about Palpatine's obscure past. The obscure financial transactions through ghost companies in multiple jurisdictions. The extremely mysterious and unidentified nighttime visitors to his private office. Bail expertly complemented with incredibly detailed political analyses, meticulously showing how each convenient crisis systematically expanded the Chancellor's personal power in ways completely unprecedented in Republican history. Anakin then shared his extremely recent and disturbing personal observations that completely confirmed Padme and Bail's serious suspicions. Respected masters, the Chancellor has been asking increasingly strange and inappropriate questions about the Force and about extremely specific and secret Jedi capabilities. He demonstrates surprisingly deep knowledge about the dark side that goes far beyond basic history publicly taught in common academies. He seems to know details about our secret military operations before they are officially reported through appropriate and secure communication channels. And I feel something distinctly dark and malignant around him now that I'm finally paying real and critical attention. An extremely disturbing presence in the Force. Something he is obviously and actively trying to hide or carefully disguise in some deliberate way. Masters, I honestly and firmly believe that Chancellor Palpatine may absolutely not be who he publicly claims to be to the galaxy. The historic council chamber fell into absolutely heavy silence as everyone processed the potentially devastating implications of these shocking revelations. Mace Windu was the first experienced master to speak clearly after the extremely heavy and prolonged silence. If this presented evidence is truly accurate and reliable, then we face a greater and more dangerous threat than anything in 1,000 years of history. A Sith secretly controlling the Republic from within while simultaneously orchestrating both sides of a galactic war. He looked directly and seriously at Yoda. Master, do you sense the truth in these grave accusations through the Force? Yoda closed his ancient and extremely wise eyes and probed deeply into the complex currents of the Force around them. He extended his senses throughout all of Coruscant, searching for the source of the darkness that had obscured his vision. When he finally opened his eyes again, there was deep sadness and iron determination. Unquestionable truth in these serious words there undeniably is. Completely deceived, we were, for far too long, by blind arrogance and excessive confidence. Clearly feel now I can, what obscured was before by skillful Sith manipulation. A powerful Sith presence, very close to all of us. In the heart of the Republic, hidden it has been for entire decades. Plo Koon added his characteristically deep and resonant voice to the urgent and critical deliberation. The Force will guide us faithfully in this extremely dark and dangerous hour, but we must be incredibly swift and absolutely resolute in our decisive actions. If Palpatine is truly Darth Sidious, the mysterious Sith Lord we have desperately sought for years, then he is extremely dangerous, skillful, and treacherous. He completely deceived our entire order for years, manipulated massive galactic events, orchestrated an entire war for his dark purposes. We cannot underestimate him in any way or hesitate. Mace Windu made the final and critical decision with authority. I will personally go to the Chancellor's office immediately to confront him directly and arrest him under full authority of the Council. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Plo Koon, you will come with me as official witnesses and necessary support. Master Yoda, you must absolutely remain here at the temple and prepare all possible defenses. If Palpatine is truly Sith, he may have other deadly plans in motion that we simply don't yet completely know about. When the determined Jedi finally arrived at Palpatine's luxurious office without any prior announcement, the Chancellor was sitting apparently calmly behind his impressive large ornate desk. He raised his yellowed eyes with a carefully controlled and neutral expression. Master Windu, what a genuinely unexpected surprise. What exactly brings you here so late tonight? But his distinctly yellowed eyes betrayed complete knowledge and quick calculation. He knew exactly why they were there confronting him, his elaborate plan discovered prematurely before the ideal moment. Mace Windu decisively activated his iconic purple saber, the characteristic blade bathing the entire office in brilliant violet light. Chancellor Palpatine, in the name of the Jedi Council and the Galactic Republic, you are officially under arrest on grave suspicions of high treason and for being a Sith Lord. Surrender peacefully now, or you will be taken by force if absolutely necessary. For an extremely tense moment, Palpatine simply stared at them calculatingly. Then his face contorted horribly in pure and revealing hatred. So you've finally discovered the truth far too late. Incredibly arrogant, foolish Jedi. Palpatine roared loudly, his voice transforming completely into something malignant and frightening. Yes, I am Darth Sidious, the powerful Sith Lord you desperately sought for years. This entire galaxy already belongs to me completely. His hand moved with absolutely surprising speed for a carefully hidden communication device. Before the Jedi could completely react and stop him, he activated a specific coded transmission. Execute Order 66 immediately in absolutely all galactic sectors. The deadly command instantly echoed through millions of control chips surgically implanted in the clone soldiers' brains. On thousands of diverse worlds simultaneously, previously loyal soldiers treacherously turned their weapons against the Jedi who commanded and trusted them. But Palpatine had made a critical miscalculation by activating the order before eliminating the Jedi directly in front of him. Mace Windu moved with the characteristic speed and deadly precision that made him recognizably one of the greatest duelists of the entire Jedi Order. His distinctive purple saber quickly cut through Palpatine's initial defenses while Obi-Wan and Plo Koon strategically flanked from the sides. Palpatine roared with absolutely pure and malignant Sith fury, destructive lightning of dark force explosively bursting from his horribly twisted hands. His wrinkled form moved with completely unnatural and disturbing speed, a bloody red lightsaber magically appearing in his hands as he attacked with ancient and deadly Sith techniques. The luxurious office chaotically exploded in blinding light and massive destructive energy. Anakin faced his own crucial internal battle as Palpatine desperately screamed, "Anakin, help me immediately! They want to coldly assassinate me and take complete control of the Republic." But Anakin thought of Padme, of her careful words, of how she had risked absolutely everything for the truth. "No, Chancellor. I see you clearly for what you truly are now." The battle was extremely intense but relatively brief against 4 highly experienced and coordinated Jedi. Palpatine fought with all the fury of the complete dark side, but was at a clear numerical and strategic disadvantage. Mace Windu finally found a crucial opening in his weakened defenses. His purple saber decisively cut through Palpatine's red saber, completely disarming him. Before the desperate Sith could invoke more deadly lightning or attempt to cowardly escape, Windu struck with final and absolutely lethal precision. Darth Sidious, the architect of entire decades of elaborate galactic manipulation, fell dead on the floor of his own luxurious office. The Sith Lord who had meticulously orchestrated the entire war was finally definitively defeated. But his last malignant order was already in relentless execution throughout the entire galaxy, and thousands of Jedi were tragically dying at that exact moment at the hands of their own programmed soldiers. Mace Windu immediately understood the catastrophic gravity with absolute clarity. Order 66. He activated the contingency command in the clones before dying. "We need to return to the temple immediately." They ran quickly back, Anakin frantically trying to contact Yoda through his communicator. Yoda's distinctly calm voice responded through heavy static. "Clearly feel already I could. Violently attacked, the temple is being now. Traitorous clones marching are. Quick, return you must. Need every capable Jedi we will." When they arrived near the sacred temple, entire battalions of clones surrounded the building with hostile intent. Massive explosions lit up the dark night as they tried to force violent entry. But Yoda had organized efficient defenses, young Padawans being evacuated while knights took strategic positions. Yoda stood heroically at the entrance, his green saber deflecting blasts with impossible precision. Anakin didn't hesitate a single second. He courageously ran toward the clone lines, his blue saber cutting through rifles and creating strategic openings. Obi-Wan loyally followed him, his defensive style perfectly complementing Anakin's characteristic aggressiveness. Together they forced their way through the deadly siege. Mace Windu and Plo Koon attacked from another angle, dividing the clones' attention. Yoda sensed the reinforcements arriving through the Force. "Arrived, help has. Strong, remain we must. This night, survive the Order will." Anakin fought like absolutely never before, each movement perfectly calculated. He thought of Padme waiting anxiously. He thought of everything the Jedi represented through generations. This heritage could not end in this treacherous way. During the battle, Anakin saw clones heading for the chamber with defenseless younglings. Without hesitating, he intercepted the attackers. He arrived when they were preparing explosives. With a powerful movement of the Force, he ripped away the weapons and threw them back, creating a controlled explosion. He held that position alone for an hour, deflecting countless blasts while protecting the innocent. When the battle finally calmed down with the Jedi systematically disabling the programmed clone troops, Yoda specifically sought out Anakin. He found him sitting among the saved younglings, carefully checking if each child was completely unharmed and comforting them. Yoda observed in deep silence, then spoke softly. "Skywalker, wrong about you completely. I was brave young Skywalker. Fear in you I clearly saw, and right I was about its existence. But courage also I saw tonight, extraordinary and rare courage. Sacrifice yourself for others completely, you did without hesitation. Led when absolutely necessary, you did brilliantly. Saved dozens of precious lives, you accomplished heroically. These are actions of a true Jedi Master, not just a skilled knight." Within an hour, the surviving council met solemnly and formally and, by absolute unanimity, granted Anakin Skywalker the title of Jedi Master in recognition of his exceptional courage, inspiring leadership and heroic sacrifice that saved the Jedi Order from complete extinction. Anakin finally achieved the recognition he had always deeply desired, not for power or politics, but for true heroism and dedication to the most sacred and fundamental Jedi principles.